All right, hello everybody. Well, basically in the title of my uh, thumbnail, you basically see new thoughts about 2K26. My new thoughts about it, basically, I mean, I've seen all these new screenshots that have been coming out on the game and everything, and truthfully, my thoughts, I mean, they can razzle dazzle you with all these new screenshots and all these matches that are coming and new wrestlers that are being added or old wrestlers and old match types. But in my opinion, when you add all that in there, that's just some of it. And even the entrance modes, the fact that you can create your entrance and stuff like that, and that you can go and do a lot of the creation modes. That's only some of wrestling, period. The thing of it is, another thing about the wrestling is these guys, they take years to develop their own characters and stuff like that. They take 17 years, if not more. And when they go out there to sell those characters to you, and they go out there and they have that mic in their hand and they're cutting that promo, and you got two guys in the ring across from each other and they're cutting promos and they're talking and stuff like that, and they're bringing that character to life like that. That is also what wrestling is about. It's not just about the stage lights. It's not just about, all these match types and what's added in there. It's also about the voice that's brought to it and the wrestler bringing, or I should say, breathing into that character. And for me, what's really made me want to keep playing these wrestling games is every time you would play them and you would choose any of the characters, when you're going through the story and you see each and every cutscene, or I should say, when it would cut to a promo and everything, you would hear the wrestler, talking through their character. That's also what was a part of it, because that's what would draw you in. You would hear the two wrestlers feuding back and forth. But it wasn't just the wrestler. It wasn't just about the fact that the wrestlers feuding back and forth. It was them bringing the care. It was them using the characters they created to have a war, to have a feud. They were feuding through their characters, and that's what kept you always interested, because they would think outside the box. And when they were cutting that promo on one another, that's what also, when they would do it through the game, that's what would also keep you interested in playing these games. Besides the matches, besides um, them tossing each other through a cell, tossing each other through a flaming table, or whipping each other into the stage and the stage would break, or throwing each other into a wall, or picking up a trash can and knocking each other around with a garbage can or a kendo stick or a sledgehammer. Or you would, see them do these major leaps off of a 25-foot cell or a 15-foot high steel cage, or gold dust getting thrown into an electrical box, and then he comes up with this idea to stutter after getting thrown into an electrical box. These guys go to creative and all that, and the creative helps them to form, okay, this is what I'm going to do with my character for at least a couple of segments. When you see that stuff in the game, that's what makes it fun, because you keep coming back and wanting to play. But what I've seen in these wrestling games is you'll see it in the My Rise mode where you can hear the wrestler's voice as they're talking to your character. But in the universe mode lately, through all of these games that have come out, the recent 2K games, in the universe mode, they have you simulate the matches. Even when you play in the universe and you go out there and you see a promo cut, yeah, the wrestler's talking, but where's the voice at? Like, no voice work. With the monologue, you don't hear the wrestler's voice at all. Like, okay, what sense does that make? But yet you play all these thousands of video games with voices for each of the characters in all these games that you see out there that are like non-wrestling related, and you see like so much voice work in them. I mean, I've played so many games over the years, such as the Tom Clancy series recently, Grand Theft Auto games I've been playing for a long time. Let's see, what other ones have I put my time into? Because, like I said, there's been so many that I put my time into. Besides Space Invaders, Dig Dug, Super Mario Brothers, which Super Mario Brothers is like a Nintendo classic. I mean, I've even seen Sony games too, older Sony games that were classics. Now, I don't diss on Sony, I don't diss on Nintendo. I'm not offended by any of these corporate companies that, have made any of these consoles. It's awesome that they've made these consoles and they have been able to improve and push the limits with each of them. I don't feel like we really push the limits because I think that each and every time they're finding new ways to make them better and better. That I'm seeing games that are getting created and that are getting made better, whether they're getting remastered, remade, or just enhanced, to run better on the newer systems. But I think what also makes a video game good is when you get down to the core root of how the story is told. Because video games basically, all of them have in general a story that's told. With all characters that you put inside of a video game, there's a story that's told in all of them. Yeah, and it's each of the games that you pick up and you play, there's stories that are different, in all of them. Like, I've seen a lot of different games and I've watched a lot of different YouTubers play different ones, and it might not be something I play, but I just like to see how the game developers have made all these games and how awesome that they've been able to design them. And it just blows my mind, of the way that I've seen them get done. Like, just a little bit of detail that has been tossed into it with Grand Theft Auto 6 so far. And we're only two trailers in as far as Grand Theft Auto 6 is concerned. And marketing ramps up in June for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing what all they managed to do since June. So I'm looking forward to that. Now, I know Rockstar for a fact is not going to disappoint because they never do. Take Two Interactive, I'm not sure on their rep, but I really think that for $150, if you're not going to have a universe where the wrestlers don't even like talk in there either when they do monologues. Like, if anybody remembers the games of like SmackDown versus Raw, Here Comes the Pain, there used to be stories within those that when you would play that, there was nothing but where wrestlers would talk throughout that whole game, no matter what. And a lot of those games back then, when you would pay for them, you would get everything. There wasn't this like separate thing where you would have to pay separate transactions like you do now. But now, of course, quote unquote, um, it's called microtransactions now, is what they call them, because you have to pay like these microtransactions for extra things. Like if you want different wrestlers, per se, if you want like the WrestleMania collection, they have you pay microtransactions to add it to your game. And if you add that all together, by the time you're done, you're probably paying at least a little over $100 for your game now because they got you paying the extra. So, you know, that's why you got to pick and choose, and you got to sort of have yourself on a budget. You say to yourself, is it worth paying extra over the game that you've already probably sunk $70, $80 into? But is it worth it to sink 14 or even maybe over $17 more into? Or do you save that and keep yourself in mind for maybe another game that is down the road, that say maybe you see another game and you say, huh, this game looks even cooler. Maybe I'll save my money for this one. Sometimes you gotta be picky and choosy. Sometimes you gotta decide what's gonna be better for you, because then if you find something else that's even better, you need the money for that. Or sometimes you gotta save your money because, if you got bills or expenses, and we all have bills and expenses, let's face it. I mean, all of us have to eventually pick and choose because of our bills and expenses. So we all have to decide, what's going to be best until we have what we can to afford our games. But what I've seen this year alone is there's options out there. So in other words, we have more options and choices than any other year I've seen for games. So I don't think us gamers should be really disappointed, because there is a lot of options, there is a lot of choices for us out there. Um, but we do have to be mindful. Um, yeah, but knowing we have options, I think, is a great thing. And knowing they're giving us variety this year is something we should be grateful for. Not so much grateful to like the big wigs that are in charge over these devs, but be grateful to the devs. Be grateful to the creators, the people that work hard to make these games, because these are the people that take hours and time and dedication to make such awesome games for us to sit back and enjoy. So they're the reason why we got options and choices. But as you hear a little bit, that's just a few of my thoughts on that topic as far as 2K26. Now, is it a game worth it for me? No. Am I going to invest $150 in a game that, or I should say, in a franchise that so far has really been disappointing to me? No. Because it doesn't justify $150 when they only have done so much in their games to a point where I don't really see that pattern changing much. And not only that, for that price tag, knowing I could put that money aside for something else or invest in the future of this channel, uh, no. I'm gonna say I'm reserving that for uh, something else in the long run. Now, if someone else out there likes that game, or if someone else out there can tell me if maybe um, they do better with the universe, or if somebody out there can tell me that they've improved it, that's cool. Or if you like it, thumbs up to you. If you enjoy it, hey, ain't nothing wrong with that. Because I'm not going to sit here and judge. I don't do that to anybody. I'm laid back to a point. If there's something you like, I'm not going to be judging you based off of what you like. That's your preference. Because at the end of it all, I'm going to play games that I enjoy and that I like. And if I don't invest hundreds of dollars in something because I choose not to like it, hey, that's just me. But at least there's choices out there. Like you got Fable, you got Wolverine coming out this year. Forza Horizon 6 is coming out. What else is coming out? Heck, Grand Theft Auto 6 is coming out November 19th. You got Fable. You got so many others. Even PlayStation's releasing a John Wick video game. Now, I've seen the John Wick movies. I've watched maybe one or two of the John Wick movies, and I've never thought that I'd ever see a game being created uh, off that movie. I would have never thought of a John Wick game uh, being done. I think it's pretty cool. That Keanu Reeves is playing the part of John Wick for that, or that they're doing that off of his likeness from the first movie that he did of John Wick. I could tell you he's a bad A. He's one heck of an actor. And when they had him do John Wick, he was a perfect fit for that. That I can definitely say. Um, Resident Evil 9, Requiem. That is another thing that I honestly am happy to see that has made its way out there. So, the thing of it is, in the next few months, with all these games coming out, we have so much that is coming out that is going to be awesome. So we have so much to be looking forward to and so much to be happy for. So I think honestly, we should really be preparing ourselves for what's to come. So I don't think we have to really be majorly disappointed. But feel free, if you want to come in and discuss some thoughts or have any opinions of your own, if you want to come in and chit chat with me, you're more than welcome. My channel is always open to have discussions with anybody. It would help me if you guys like whenever I sit here and share my thoughts and opinions that this is what my new channel is all about. I just come in and I share my thoughts and I share my opinions about what I think um, about the games to come, the hardware, the new controller for the Xbox. It's coming in 2027. It looks like it's going to be an awesome one. I do love the Elite Series 2 that is out now for Xbox. It's an awesome controller. Uh, I have no complaints about it. So, I have no beef either way in that one. So, but honestly, I used to be big into the wrestling games, but when they started making so many different changes for so many different reasons, and when they started focusing certain things and voice work in certain areas, they pulled certain matches for certain reasons or removing titles from them and stuff like that. When they started doing things like that, I started pulling away. I mean, I don't even watch wrestling on TV, and I used to watch it on TV a lot. Yeah, I used to sit there and watch Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown. I've been to live events before, but the wrestling business to me has just changed a lot. Now, I haven't been on Division Two in a while either, and I used to play a lot, and I mean a lot of Division Two. But for a while, I've been taking a break on it because, you know, there's been so much IRL stuff, which I'm not going to get into that, but I've had a lot of that stuff going on that's why it's pulled me away from taking a break on that, taking a break on Division Two. For a while, I was also playing another Tom Clancy game, Ghost Recon Wildlands. And when I first tried that game out, I was like, I wonder if I'll like this one. And when I started running the missions at first, uh, yeah, I was a little hesitant. I didn't know if I was going to continue to keep playing it. Yeah, I didn't know if I was going to keep pulling myself up by my bootstraps or pull myself up, so to speak, to keep playing it. But something in me, I kept playing it over and over again. Of course, just like any game, sometimes you'll die a multitude of times. But when I started doing that and then I started getting better and better, I'm like, whoa, this game's grabbing a hold of me. I'm like, I'm starting to have fun with this. This is cooler than I thought. When I started seeing I could break guns down, build them back up, make them even stronger. When I saw I could do that too with like the gear, when I started seeing that I could level up the agent or soldier, so to speak, whatever they phrased it as, when I started seeing all the things that I could do with it, that's what kept me coming back. So, it's things like that that I think are the reason that I stay at something, is when it always brings me back. When it comes to being able to build yourself up, enhancing, when you start getting these skill trees or skill sets. You can build yourself up and you can break your guns down and build them up. I think when you could start using skill trees to strengthen yourself up, I think that's what keeps me into a game. And I think that's what keeps it from getting boring. Is when there's always a brand new way that you can always get better and better and have more fun with it, is what really keeps me playing. Because if it's a game that you can just easily play and beat, that's where it gets boring. You want a game that you could sit there and play for hours. Not something that has a story, you get to the end of the story, and then it's like, what do you do from there? I mean, yeah, can you sit there and do a ton of side missions? Sure, you could do the side missions, but what's so much fun about doing a ton of side missions and all that when also the story was just as intriguing and just as much fun? The skill tree to make a character stronger is fun. Same as making your guns even stronger too. Because then you see the power that your guns are at, and when you go to take down the bad guys, you start to feel like you're invisible because the bad guys drop so fast. So but honestly, now with all these games that are coming, all the ones I've seen so far, they're all looking interesting and they're looking awesome. And it's great that they're giving options for everybody. And it feels like that there is a genre out there for everybody. Whether it is third person shooters, first person shooters, RPGs, uh, that there is options for every style of game, for every style of individual. That there's always a choice, or there's always choices, especially this year, more than anything. And I think this time you can definitely say, unlike years past, that there is an overflow of games because there's nowhere to put all of them. And more just keep coming out. Because they're creating more and more games. Like they're getting a lot of ideas, but what's going to happen, when those ideas dry up? I mean, they're going to have to come up with other ideas. And what's going to happen whenever they can't keep remastering or remaking games? Because that's only going to go so far. Because then, you would have to come up with ideas that would have to be like an original idea or an original concept. You'll have to come up with something that would never be seen or heard of before. Um, yeah. There's just new ideas that are going to eventually have to come out. So as these years go by, once they're done doing these remakes, remasters, whatever you do with them, you're going to have to come up with different ideas to keep extending stories. Because story-based games, people are going to demand to see stories go on for certain games. There's certain games that some people are starting to remember that they're going to want a remaster done on them. You know, some people are going to want to see games that they're going to want to see a different idea for them. You know, not everybody's going to want the same recycled or reused idea. You know, because you got to think of different ideas. You know, because you can. It's the same as movies. You know, you don't want to keep having the same movie having more and more parts to it, because then eventually, what about a new story? Another story. You know, video games can be the same way. After a while, you can only write about a person's story so much before someone's going to want a different story, and a story that is new and hasn't been heard. Whether it's in a RPG fantasy type of game, um, a war story type game, even if it's in a fantasy RPG style of game, people are going to want new ideas, new fresh ideas. Now, there might be a couple of games that I might have wanted to see remastered, like GTA 4. The guy who played Nico Bellic, he did a good job. And I wanted to see GTA 4 remastered. Me and a lot of other people. I'm sure there's been other people too that have begged for it. That wanted to see GTA 4 being remastered, but nothing more had come from Rockstar about that. Because Rockstar right now, their main focus is GTA 6 right now. Now they have been doing a little bit of stuff uh, in GTA 5, because I did see a couple of stuff done for GTA 5 online. But other than that, you haven't heard much from them, except for whenever it came to maybe little updates for GTA 5. But then the last that was heard was when Strauss Zelnick was saying about marketing ramping up in June and summer for GTA 6. And aside from 2K Interactive, or 2K, ramping up for 2K26, being on the Switch and other consoles. So, and that's the thing in the game world is they're always switching. Like it's always changing up. So, but yeah, yeah. But for as much as I've really seen, yeah, and they keep talking about these major chips that have been designed and created. And I can't wait to see what it's going to do and the changes it'll make. Another thing I really don't agree with is AI and how AI is going to affect Discord now. and how they want to have people using their state ID to verify their age. And in a world where hackers infiltrate people's accounts every day, people's accounts get hacked constantly, that I don't feel safe just putting my ID out there because, I'm putting it out there that's leaving anyone around me vulnerable, including myself and my personal accounts. And you can't always put your trust in corporations and companies. A lot of these corporations and these big time companies out there, time and time again, it's been heard that they're in it for themselves. They'll protect themselves to make sure that things don't happen to them, but not everybody has these major protections in place for themselves. So, say your information gets out there, and if you can't do anything to defend yourself, there goes your information. And there goes everything that you have. So, I just wanted to get on here and talk about a couple of things, um, a couple of views that I really think should change, and a little bit of things that I would like to see. Just a few of my thoughts, about some things, and a few of my thoughts about how amazing it is with the video games that are coming out in this whole year. The way that I am not for putting my ID on Discord. Um, and my thoughts about the way the wrestling games are going. Um, and how much it's not an interest to me anymore, like it used to be. So I've had fun, when I've played Tom Clancy games, when I've played GTA 5 and other games before. When I've watched my TV shows lately, I've been trying to get back on the Xbox, but there's been a lot, that has gone on for me. So sometimes it doesn't get very easy for me to pick up a controller because I deal with osteoarthritis and all that in my cervical spine. So sometimes I get to a point where I'm pretty sore dealing with that. Um, and sometimes if I don't get that rest I need either, um, that doesn't help. I deal with anxiety and depression a lot. So sometimes I have to give myself that swift kick in the rear to get myself going. So that's where it gets rough to do. So, but other than that, usually once I get myself going, then it's not so much of a big deal. But feel free and drop in, you're more than welcome. I would appreciate it if you can share this chat out there. Let people know we're live. Basically, I could use your help to boost this channel. I could use your help with shares and likes, and basically, if you enjoy how I come on here and voice my opinions, if it's your thing, you're more than welcome to subscribe to it. You're free to do that. I don't twist your arm, nothing like that. If you contribute and help me in any way, shape, or form, it goes toward the channel to keep growing it and to do more for it. I just love coming on here, sitting here, and just talking about stuff. Talking about gaming, talking about how much passion I have for it. I mean, when I have had like the motivation and the energy, I could sit there for a while gaming, especially on Division 2, gaming on Ghost Recon. I even used to run squads on Division 2 where I would just team up with randos or random players, and we would just sit there for hours, running missions upon missions. I would sit there and I'd have a blast. And then I was playing Watch Dogs Legion, which I didn't think I would enjoy that. It was all right when I did play it. Same goes for Grand Theft Auto. Like, I would just sit there and play with random players, even on Grand Theft Auto, and I'd just run around and help people because I was so high in my own rank that I'm sorry about that. But I was so high in my own rank that I'd just go around helping people. I would just go around helping other people out. That's what I would do. I would just sit there and help other people out, see who all needed help with a heist or a mission. And I'd just join them and help them. Same goes, and other things on Division 2. Like, I would sit there for hours and we'd just be going around doing things. Going around taking out the enemy presence, going around destroying things. So, I'm down for stuff like that too. I eventually want to get back to doing that. I'd love to start going further even into building this channel. Yeah. So, I mean, I game on Xbox and stuff like that when I've had the energy. Usually I watch older episodes of NCIS. When I'm not doing that, usually I watch like newer episodes of 911. What's my other two shows? SVU, and then what's my other one? Chicago Fire, Chicago PD. Those are two of my other favorite shows that I like watching. So, but that's also a little bit about me. What's more about me too is I like to listen to a lot of different like 70s, 80s music, a little bit of 90s music as well. I've been a gamer for 34, 35 years or so. I've been passionate about gaming because it's what I've been doing since I was younger. It got me through my childhood a lot. I've watched gaming evolve into what it is today. I've watched gaming change so much as it was an evolving thing. I grew up when San Andreas was big. I grew up when San Andreas got started. Before you had all these other GTA games. I grew up when Apple was a computer. Way before Apple was an iPhone, I grew up playing an Apple playing on an Apple computer, an Apple Macintosh computer, and I was playing Monopoly, the original Monopoly. I even would play the board game of Shoots and Ladders when I was a kid, when I was a young kid. And it was fun. You know, those were simple games. Even playing on the Atari, the PlayStation 1, the OG original Xbox, the big one, playing on that, that was a simpler time. You know, because that was, you might as well say those were the first iterations. Even the original Nintendo, where you had those cartridges, those big plastic cartridges, before you started getting all this like fancy stuff you have now. That's the way that I'd be playing my games. So, Crash Bandicoot, Spyro the Dragon. I used to play those two games. Those were big. Playing Nintendo or playing Super Mario Brothers, going and defeating King Koopa. Yeah, I remember going after King Koopa. If anybody remembers King Koopa, you know that was Mario's uh, evil nemesis that him and his brother Luigi would go after. So you know, I remember even doing that. Playing Hangman, Dig Dug, Space Invaders on the Atari. I mean, those were fun games because those were the simple, basic games before you started having the OG Xbox. It was the original Nintendo. Then Nintendo company themselves came out with PlayStation 1, which was the original PlayStation. And when they came out with that, you saw San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. And that started to gain popularity because everybody wanted to get their hands on that game. And whenever you seen that, like that swept the world. And then after that, Xbox showed up. And you seen the first Xbox, which was the real big one that you had to have space for it because this thing was real big. It was bigger than these consoles now. So basically, it was like half the size of what a computer screen is now. It was bigger than that. But you know, it was cool back in that time because almost everybody had one, and it was cheaper. It wasn't as expensive. I mean, yeah, you had to pay a few $100s, but not like it is now. The prices now compared to then, nah. And most of the games back then were on disc. You didn't have digital, you didn't have none of the fancier stuff until a couple of more years after that. That's when you started seeing the digital age. You started seeing the age where um, fancier technologies arrived, fancier technologies showed up, fancier cell phones began to show up. And the internet back then, you had to wait longer to connect because back then So you had to wait for a dial tone, and then you had to wait after the dial tone for it to take its time to connect. You didn't have this like instant connection, so to speak. You didn't have the like instant bam, there it is, it's already connected. So, but then again, you got through that time period. It was a simpler period too. You weren't as stressed like nowadays. And I feel like nowadays people are more in a rush. We're more of a society that is a hurry up and rush society. Sometimes we tend to not sit back enough and enjoy what we got. No, I might not be sitting here talking to you guys on some 4090 supercomputer. I might not be sitting here streaming this video on a amazing 4K camera. I might not be sitting here streaming on 3 screens right now. But I'm sitting here still live streaming, talking to you all, and I'm using a computer that basically gives me the basic capability to still come on here, voice how I feel about everything, talk about all the great stuff that I experienced in my life, and still making a video to put on YouTube. And still making a community of my own. But, feel free to come on in here, and have a conversation. We'll talk about the good old times. We'll talk about games that you like. We could talk about what you think of the future, the outlook, what you want to come out of all this, as far as video games and stuff. But if there's one thing right now is we need to make sure that the video games stay alive. Because I'll be danged if AI will be a reason why video games get messed up. Because video games are our childhood, and that is not to be touched by anything. These devs that create these games for us, they need to be respected. I appreciate these devs everywhere, working for these companies, putting in time to make these awesome video games, whether they're remakes or just basically making a new game or a new IP. You are appreciated. You might not see my channel because right now I'm not exactly a big channel. I'm not exactly what you would call a big live streamer. I'm just a small guy, a headset, and a mic, and a small channel right now. But I am sitting here saying that I love the video games I've played. I love communities I've been a part of. And I'm giving a shout out to I Am the Mag, who also is a viewer of my channel and a subscriber to my channel. I appreciate what you've done to help me, Mag. You're the reason why I still get the inspiration to come on here and stand up and speak. Because before, I was nervous about this. I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I had the strength to pull myself up to do this. But I know now I can. So thanks for your help. But, all these awesome video games, all this awesome stuff that continues to get made, I think it's great. I'm glad to be a part of this. I'm glad to watch how video games are getting shaped and molded. But I don't think they should be molded by some supercomputer. I think that people that have graphic design degrees, I think people that have worked hard to get those degrees should be a part of making sure that the video games turn out well. And it's nice to be a part of a community where all of the people that I have watched at their channels have voiced their opinions and stand up and say, hey, we don't need AI for everything. AI might be great for some. AI might be wonderful for certain things. But for video games, it should be done by graphic designers that know how to handle these engines and that know how to handle creating games and making games well. And most of all, if I was to basically say anything on my channel, is always remember that if we're not having fun while grabbing that controller, if we're not enjoying ourselves when we're gaming, what are we doing? And if we're sitting there and getting angry at simply a video game that is just like a fictional world, it's just a fictional world. You know, you die in it a multitude of times, until what? You restart. Most of all, the core reason why we all play video games is to have fun. Not to be bored, but to have fun. You know, so I don't think that we should sit in communities and argue. For one, I don't think that we should go in and bash each other. You know, whether somebody likes PlayStation or Xbox or PC. Because the thing of it is, we all have our choice of platform. We all have our option of where we play at and what games we play. But where we come in common at is we're all gamers. And that won't change any of us because we're always going to be gamers as long as we're picking that controller up and playing. Doesn't matter what we're playing on, we're always going to be a gamer as long as we choose to pick up the controller and play. But why not have fun with what we do? Like I said, you know, if you want to come in here and just, you know, one of these times on live, come shoot the breeze with me, have a discussion. Yeah, and tell me what you like about gaming. Yeah, and tell me what your best thing is that you love about it, what you don't like about it. And personally, I love the changes that keep on getting made, but hopefully more positive choices and changes come out of things instead of negative. Because a lot of times you also see a lot of negative press that surrounds it. And that's where it always becomes irritating, is when the negative press gets into it. And when they start attacking the video game companies or the industry itself. And I don't really think that that is a wise idea, you know, to start attacking. Because there's already a lot of pressure, you know, that's brought onto these companies or brought onto these devs to perform and perform well with everything they do. So, but these are just more top thoughts coming from a top gamer that's been at it for 35 years, that is still passionate, that passion never dies. Because as long as you keep pushing ahead, you keep believing in what you believe in, and you find that one thing that keeps you going. You hold on to it, and you don't stop. So basically, like I said, I just love doing this. I love standing up for something. I've had certain things that I believed in, that I was always a part of. And sometimes too, when I was growing up, I never could, I never felt like I fit in somewhere. But when it came to gaming, I knew I fit in. When it came to me playing video games and stuff like that, that's where I knew I fit in. Not so much being a person that would have conversations, because I never was one for getting up and talking. But when you would put me in front of a video game and it's something I liked, I'd play for hours. And when I would start getting those achievements, that's whenever it would mean a lot to me. So basically, until next time, I will catch up to y'all later. But you take care, enjoy your weekend, and remember, Pop Gamer out, but enjoy plenty of video games this weekend.